My mother is 63 years old this year. Before she was in her 50s, she was always a practical and face-saving strong woman, with a hot temper and a disdain for things that didn't benefit her. After I began practicing Falun Dafa in 1998, I wanted my mother to give it a try too, as it would be beneficial for her health and could help change her irritable temper. However, as an atheist, she didn't believe in Qigong and reacted negatively to the idea of practicing, completely dismissing it. After the persecution of Falun Gong began in 1999, my mother's attitude towards my practice became hysterical. She said if I continued to practice, she would sever ties with me as her son. She collaborated with the 610 office, persecution organization, and neighborhood committee officials to deceive me into attending brainwashing classes at a labor camp. She even spread rumors in the newspaper, claiming her son had become stupid and foolish from practicing. She even burned my Falun Dafa books while I was away. I often tried to tell my mother the truth about the persecution, but every time I spoke up, she immediately interrupted me, never giving me a chance to speak. One evening in April 2008, my mother was in unbearable pain in her abdomen and underwent a comprehensive examination at the hospital, where she was diagnosed with cancer. The cancer cells had spread to her lungs and other parts of her body. After several months of chemotherapy with no effect, I saw my strong-willed mother hiding in the bathroom, quietly crying. Her hair fell out in clumps. Her weakened body needed a lot of nutrition, but she vomited whenever any food came near her. The doctors suggested trying another experimental and highly reactive chemotherapy drug. Before starting the new treatment, my mother had a week off, and I wanted to have a good conversation with her again. I knew many terminally ill patients who had been cured by practicing Falun Dafa. That day, I cooked some dumplings for my mother. She took 2 bites and vomited, then lay down on the couch. I sat next to her and said, "Mom, can we talk?" She said, "Talk about what? I don't want to listen." I said, "You heard what the doctor said earlier. The hospital has no hope left, but there are other treatment options. Why don't you want to give it a try? Your son has only one wish, and that's for you to get better soon." My mother was moved and said, "Okay, go ahead." For the first time, I had a heart-to-heart talk with my mother, chatting for over an hour, sharing many miraculous stories of friends around me who had experienced healing through practicing Falun Dafa. I felt my mother's attitude beginning to change. Her mental state also improved. Next, I showed her the Divine Performing Arts show of 2008. Later, she said she was hungry, ate 8 dumplings, and went to bed. For the first time in a month and a half, I saw her sleeping so peacefully. On the day of her chemotherapy, I recorded an MP3 for my mother, which contained Master's teachings. She accepted it. When I arrived at the hospital after work that day, I saw her sitting on the bed, listening to the MP3. Seeing me, my mother seemed excited, took off her headphones, and said to me, "It's amazing." When I felt unbearable pain about 15 minutes into the chemotherapy, I remembered the MP3 you gave me in the morning and started listening to it. Before I knew it, the pain disappeared. The more I listened, the more I liked it and found it reasonable. Over the next 5 days of chemotherapy, my mother was completely different. She listened to Master's teachings during chemotherapy and didn't feel any pain. Her appetite improved, and she felt energetic. After completing only 3 of the 4 chemotherapy sessions, my mother firmly refused to continue. She believed that practicing Falun Dafa was the reason for her improving health. Back home, my mother began practicing and studying the teachings every day, and her health continued to improve. When she went back to the hospital for a checkup, all her indicators were normal, and the cancer was gone. My mother's recovery changed the perspectives of many relatives in our family, who witnessed the miracles happening to her. My mother has been practicing for 16 years now. Today, her temper has improved, and she is always cheerful.